Have you ever noticed how someone can walk out of your life, yet somehow still hold your emotions hostage? It's strange, isn't it? One day he's there, the next he's gone, and suddenly you're left wondering if he'll ever think about you again. But here's what most women don't realize. A man doesn't miss you when you chase him. He misses you when something inside him suddenly feels empty without you. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. In the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal a powerful psychological principle called the distance effect, the one phenomenon that quietly flips a man's emotional response from indifference to curiosity, to longing. This isn't manipulation. This isn't a trick. This is human psychology working exactly as it was designed to. See, when he leaves, you instinctively want to close the gap. You want to talk. You want answers. You want clarity. But the truth is, the more you close that gap, the less room there is for his mind to search for you. Men don't miss what feels available. They miss what feels gone but unforgettable. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to create a space that doesn't push him away, but instead pulls him closer in a way he can't explain. A space that makes him question his decision. A space that makes him wonder what you're doing. A space that makes him feel that subtle ache of missing you. By the end of this, you'll understand exactly how to make him feel your absence deeply, naturally, and irresistibly. When a man leaves, it often feels sudden, cold, or confusing, like one moment he cared, and the next he disconnected without warning. But what most women don't realize is that when a man pulls away, it usually has far less to do with you, and far more to do with what's happening inside him. Men are conditioned to process their emotions differently. Instead of confronting confusion, doubt, or fear, they tend to withdraw from it. So when he feels overwhelmed, pressured, or even surprisingly attached, he instinctively distances himself as a way to regain control of his internal world. Sometimes he pulls away because he feels that the relationship is demanding more emotional vulnerability than he knows how to offer. Sometimes he leaves because he senses expectations he isn't ready to meet. And sometimes, ironically, he pulls back when he actually cares, because caring makes him feel exposed. Instead of leaning in, he retreats so he doesn't feel like he's losing his sense of independence or identity. Another thing women aren't told is that men often don't fully process loss in the moment. When he leaves, he's telling himself he's fine. He distracts himself. He disconnects. He convinces himself he made a rational choice. But in reality, he's not escaping the relationship. He's just delaying the emotional impact of it. That impact always comes later, once the silence settles in and the familiar presence of you is suddenly missing from his life. When he pulls away, he isn't reaching for clarity. He's reaching for distance, because distance is where he feels safest. But that exact distance is also what creates the opportunity for him to eventually feel the loss, the absence, and the longing he didn't expect. And when that hits, that's when he begins to miss you deeply and unmistakably. Missing someone isn't just an emotional reaction. It's a psychological sequence that unfolds in stages, often without a person even noticing it's happening. When someone significant leaves your life, the mind doesn't immediately register the loss. Instead, it clings to routine. It expects the same messages, the same presence, the same emotional patterns. So when those patterns suddenly disappear, the brain experiences a gap, a kind of emotional interruption. At first, he may ignore it or brush it off. He may distract himself with work, friends, or anything that keeps him from sitting in silence long enough to feel the emptiness. But the mind always returns to what once felt familiar. That's because humans are wired for connection. Our brains build emotional pathways that associate certain people with comfort, safety, identity, and even self-worth. When he left, he might have convinced himself that creating distance would give him clarity or relief. But his brain quietly stored the emotional imprint of you, the way you spoke, the energy you brought, the emotional space you created around him. And once the distraction fades, those imprints start resurfacing on their own. What triggers missing someone is usually not the person's absence. It's the contrast between what the mind is used to and what it suddenly doesn't have anymore. He begins to notice the silence where your voice used to be. He remembers small details he never paid attention to while he had you. He starts feeling emotional withdrawal, similar to losing a source of comfort he didn't realize mattered. This is when curiosity turns into longing. The mind starts replaying moments, conversations, and emotions, trying to fill the void. And the more he tries to suppress the thoughts, the stronger they intensify. Missing someone is simply the mind trying to reconnect with what once brought emotional stability, and that's when he begins to feel the loss of you more deeply than he expected. One of the biggest mistakes women make when they desperately want a man to miss them is trying to fill the silence he created. It's natural to feel the urge to reach out, to explain yourself, to ask what went wrong, or to try to revive the connection through sheer effort. But this usually has the opposite effect. When you chase someone who is pulled away, your energy communicates anxiety, fear, and insecurity, signals that make him feel even more certain about leaving. The moment he senses that you're trying to pull him back, he feels pressured, and pressure pushes him further away. Another common mistake is emotional overexposure, pouring your heart out, sending long messages, or trying to remind him of what you had. You may hope it touches him, but it rarely does. Instead, it makes him feel overwhelmed, because men process emotional intensity differently. When he has created distance, he needs space to make sense of his feelings, not more emotional input. When you try to convince him of your value, it unintentionally communicates that you're unsure of it yourself. Then there's the trap of trying to provoke a reaction by posting overly dramatic updates, seeking attention online, or acting like you're living your best life, when deep down you're hurting. Men can sense inauthenticity, even from afar. When your actions are motivated by trying to get a rise out of him, it often comes across as performative rather than powerful. Instead of making him miss you, it makes him feel relieved that he stepped back. Another mistake is staying too available, responding instantly, saying yes to every request, allowing him to drift in and out of your life without boundaries. When there are no consequences to his distance, he never feels it. If you act like his absence doesn't affect your behavior, he never gets the experience of missing your presence. And finally, trying to rush the process of making him miss you is one of the most damaging mistakes. Longing doesn't grow under pressure, it grows in silence. It grows in the moments when he expects you to be there and you're not. When he reaches for comfort you once provided and realizes he no longer has access to it. Patience is powerful, and restraint is more influential than any message you could send. Rebuilding your emotional value isn't about pretending to be someone else, or playing a role to win him back. It's about returning to the version of yourself that existed before fear, anxiety, or rejection started shaping your decisions. When someone leaves, you can easily fall into a pattern of questioning your worth, replaying every mistake, or trying to figure out what you could have done differently. But the truth is, emotional value is restored, not by looking back, but by realigning with who you are at your core, your strength, your confidence, your boundaries, your softness, your independence. The first step is internal. You must shift from seeking external validation to generating your own emotional stability. When a man senses that your peace no longer depends on him, it changes the entire dynamic. He begins to see you not as someone trying to hold on to him, but as someone who stands steady with or without him. That shift alone reignites curiosity, respect, and attention. Rebuilding your value also means elevating your life in ways that have nothing to do with him. Reconnect with your passions, reinvest in your goals, reclaim the energy you once poured into the relationship and redirect it toward yourself. When your life begins to expand, you naturally become more magnetic, not because you're trying to be, but because someone living in alignment with their purpose radiates a confidence that's impossible to ignore. Another powerful component is showing emotional control. When you stop reacting to his distance, stop explaining yourself unnecessarily, and stop giving him access to your emotions whenever he wants it, you create a shift in the power dynamic. He begins to realize that he no longer has the same emotional influence over you, and that realization makes him revisit how he values you. You also rebuild value by setting boundaries without announcing them. Silence when needed, distance when appropriate, consistency with your standards. When your behavior reflects self-respect, he starts to feel the weight of your absence in a new way. Not because you're trying to prove something, but because your actions show that you know your worth. And nothing is more compelling to a man than a woman who is willing to walk away from anything that doesn't honor her. Rebuilding emotional value is ultimately about becoming someone he can miss, and someone you're proud to be. Creating mystery, scarcity, and curiosity isn't about manipulation, it's about shifting the energy that surrounds you. When a man feels like he already knows everything about you, he subconsciously categorizes you as predictable. Predictability kills intrigue. But when he senses that there are parts of you he hasn't fully discovered, sides of you he overlooked, or layers he didn't appreciate, that's when curiosity wakes up again. Mystery doesn't mean becoming secretive. It means becoming selective. It's the quiet confidence of not sharing every detail of your life, every thought you have, or every emotion you feel. When he doesn't have access to all of you, he starts to wonder what's behind your silence. He pays attention again. He becomes aware of the shift. That space where he used to feel entitled to your attention now feels different. And that difference makes him rethink the way he saw you. Scarcity is just as powerful. When someone feels that your time, energy, and presence are abundant and guaranteed, they take them for granted. But when you become less available, not in a dramatic way, but in a grounded, self-prioritizing way, your presence becomes valuable again. Responding slower, engaging less, and giving your attention selectively creates a natural scarcity that he can feel. Suddenly, he's not sure if he has the same place in your life, and that uncertainty triggers desire. Curiosity is the emotion that begins to bridge the gap. When he notices that you're not posting your emotions online, not reaching out, and not trying to bring him back into your world, he starts to ask himself questions. What is she doing? Why is she so calm? Who is she becoming? The mind cannot stand unanswered questions, and those unanswered questions become emotional hooks that pull him back toward you. The key is that these triggers work only when they're genuine. You're not acting mysterious. You're living your life in a way that no longer revolves around him. You're not forcing scarcity. You're genuinely choosing yourself first. You're not manufacturing curiosity. You're evolving quietly, naturally, and confidently. When a woman becomes a world he no longer has full access to, he begins to crave entry again. And that craving, that curiosity, that sense of uncertainty, is exactly what makes him start missing you in ways he didn't expect. The no-contact strategy is one of the most misunderstood yet powerful emotional resets you can create after a man pulls away. Most people think no contact is about punishing him or trying to manipulate him into missing you. But that's not what this strategy is truly about. No contact is a deliberate choice to break the emotional pattern that keeps you tied to someone who walked away. It's a space where you stop feeding the connection with your attention, your energy, and your availability. You stop being the emotional safety net he assumes will always be there. When you choose no contact, you're not cutting him off out of anger. You're reclaiming the part of yourself that became dependent on his validation. At first, he may not react. He may even feel relieved because he doesn't feel the pressure of your presence. But that's temporary. Men don't feel the impact of loss immediately. They feel it once the silence becomes real. Once they notice that the attention, affection, and emotional support they took for granted has completely disappeared. No contact works because it allows the emotional dust to settle. You stop chasing. You stop explaining. You stop trying to fix what he broke. And for the first time, he's forced to deal with the uncomfortable silence he created. During this silence, his mind naturally begins revisiting the moments, the connection, and the emotions that used to feel familiar. He starts to notice the absence of your energy, your voice, your presence, and absence is often louder than any message you could send. But no contact isn't only for him, it's for you. It's the space where you start healing, rediscovering yourself, and rebuilding your sense of worth. It's where you stop reacting to his distance and start responding to your own needs. As you detach, you regain clarity. You stop seeing him as the source of your emotional stability and start recognizing that you can stand on your own. By the time he finally feels the impact of losing you, you're no longer the woman who needed him. You're the woman who transformed in his absence. And that transformation doesn't just make him miss you, it makes him realize what he lost when you stopped trying to hold on to him. Reappearing in his mind without reaching out isn't about sending indirect messages or trying to get his attention from a distance. It's about shifting the emotional and psychological imprint you left behind. When you stop chasing, stop reacting, and stop giving him emotional access, something subtle begins to happen on its own. His mind starts revisiting what was once effortlessly available. And because you're no longer filling that space, the silence begins to echo. The first thing that draws you back into his thoughts is unpredictability. When you're no longer behaving the way he expects, his mind naturally becomes curious. If he assumed you would check on him, reach out, or try to restart the connection, your quietness breaks the pattern. Humans are deeply reactive to contrast, and the contrast between who you were when he left and who you're becoming now catches his attention, even if he doesn't admit it. Another way you reappear in his mind is through subtle energetic shifts. When you focus inward, improving your routine, leveling up your life, reconnecting with your passions, your emotional frequency changes. You're no longer emitting attachment, anxiety, or longing. Instead, you radiate calm, self-assured independence. Even if he's not physically present, people feel energetic shifts through the absence of certain behaviors. When your energy stabilizes, his mind interprets it as distance he didn't choose, and that sparks curiosity and even discomfort. Additionally, shared memories begin resurfacing more vividly once you're not in his world. Familiar songs, places, inside jokes, habits, and even quiet moments he didn't value enough start resurfacing at unexpected times. Memory is triggered by contrast. What the brain no longer has access to becomes more emotionally charged. The more you detach, the more those imprints intensify. You also reappear through your absence in moments where he subconsciously expects you. Times he's stressed, lonely, bored, or unsure about his choices. When he reaches for the comfort you once provided, whether emotionally or mentally, and realizes you're no longer there, that's when the longing begins. The mind hates empty spaces, so it starts filling them with thoughts of you. And finally, you reappear in his mind when he sees your growth. Not flaunted, not performed, but genuinely lived. When he notices, even from afar, that you're becoming someone stronger, happier, more centered, and more intentional, he can't help but compare who you were with who you are now. That comparison often becomes the spark that pulls him emotionally back toward you. Becoming the one he regrets losing isn't about proving your worth to him. It's about embodying the version of yourself he never truly understood or appreciated until it was too late. Regret doesn't come from what a man sees in the moment. It comes from what he realizes in hindsight. And that realization happens when you begin to evolve in ways he didn't expect. In ways that highlight exactly what he took for granted. A man starts to regret losing you when he sees a shift in your self-perception. When you go from questioning your value to embodying it. When you stop trying to convince anyone of your worth because you finally recognize it within yourself. That change is magnetic. It's subtle, but it has an emotional force he can feel. Suddenly, he's not looking at the woman who clung to the relationship. He's remembering the woman who loved deeply, cared genuinely, and still walked away when she wasn't valued. Regret grows when he sees you rising rather than breaking. When he hears about your progress, sees hints of your happiness, or notices that you're no longer tied to the version of life that included him as the center. That independence creates contrast, because while he may still be the same person he was when he left, you're becoming someone new, someone stronger, someone he no longer has access to. He begins comparing what he has now, whether it's freedom, new attention, or distractions, with what he had with you. And often he finds that the comfort, emotional safety, and depth you provided were far more valuable than he realized at the time. Men tend to understand emotional loss slowly, but when it hits deeply. It's the quiet moments that create regret. When he sees your growth, when he senses your peace, when he notices your glow that no longer has anything to do with him. Becoming the one he regrets losing means you've reached a level of self-respect and self-evolution that doesn't require his validation. You're not trying to spark regret. You're simply becoming the woman he wished he treated better when he had the chance. And that internal shift, that calm confidence, is what makes him look back and think, I didn't just lose her, I lost the best version of her. Subtlety is the secret weapon when it comes to making him think of you. It's not about sending desperate messages, posting indirect updates, or trying to provoke jealousy. Those actions often backfire, making him feel either pressured or indifferent. Instead, the key is to create gentle, consistent impressions that stay in his mind without any direct effort on your part. Subtlety works because it bypasses resistance. It taps into his subconscious, allowing him to notice what he's missing without feeling forced. One of the most effective methods is presence through absence. When you stop being immediately available, when you don't respond instantly, and when your attention becomes selective, his mind starts filling the void. Humans naturally notice what's missing. Every unanswered message or unreturned call leaves a small space that his thoughts instinctively wander into. That gap isn't emptiness, it's a canvas for him to remember moments, conversations, and feelings associated with you. Another subtle approach is demonstrating personal growth and joy without making it about him. Post glimpses of your life that show your passions, achievements, or happiness. When he sees that you're thriving, growing, and enjoying your life without waiting for him, it naturally draws attention. Curiosity arises. He begins wondering what you're doing, who you're becoming, and whether he's a part of that picture. The more authentic your growth, the stronger the pull. It's not arrogance, it's magnetic self-alignment. You can also trigger thoughts by revisiting shared memories in small, indirect ways. A photo, a song, or even a casual mention of an inside joke can evoke nostalgia. But the key is to let it be natural and minimal, leaving room for his imagination to fill in the emotions. Memories tied to emotional warmth tend to resurface powerfully, especially when he's already feeling the distance. Finally, your energy matters more than any action. When you're calm, confident, and content, that energy communicates without words. Men pick up on emotional cues, and when you're no longer reactive or anxious, your steadiness becomes memorable. He notices the difference, and his mind inevitably drifts back to you, not because you chased him, but because your presence lingers even in absence. Subtlety is quiet power. It doesn't shout, it whispers, and whispers are remembered long after noise fades. This is how you plant the seeds of thought that naturally grow into longing. The final step in making him miss you isn't about strategy or tricks. It's about reclaiming your emotional power. By now, you've learned how distance, mystery, scarcity, and personal growth influence his mind. But the true secret lies in how you show up for yourself. When you prioritize your own healing, clarity, and happiness, you naturally reset the energy between you and him. That reset isn't punishment. It's empowerment. It signals that your life doesn't revolve around his decisions. And that realization can create a shift in his perception faster than any message could. An emotional reset begins with detachment from outcomes. Stop measuring your worth by his reactions. Stop planning how he should feel or behave. Instead, focus on yourself, your goals, and the life you want to create. This doesn't mean ignoring your feelings. It means processing them fully, and then letting them guide your growth rather than your anxiety. When your emotional state becomes stable and independent, your presence alone becomes magnetic and unforgettable. Another vital element is consistency. Emotional resets aren't one-off moments. They're a pattern of behavior. Whether it's maintaining boundaries, continuing to invest in yourself, or refusing to overreact to his actions, consistent self-respect and calm confidence send a powerful signal. Men notice patterns more than words, and patterns communicate value without you having to say a thing. Finally, embrace patience. Longing and regret take time to develop. You've created the conditions for him to feel your absence, but forcing the process or rushing results will backfire. Allow silence, absence, and your personal growth to do the work. Trust that by showing up as your highest self, he will naturally begin to realize what he lost. The truth is simple. When you love yourself fully, live boldly, and stay consistent, you no longer need to chase him. That's the emotional reset that makes him miss you. Not because you begged, not because you pushed, but because you became someone he can't forget.